Welcome to Tom Heck for Governor Digital Town Hall. Drop into the group chat and join the conversation. This is your chance to get to know Tom, make a comment, or ask him anything you want to know about his plans as the next governor of Nevada. And Tom will take your comments and your questions and answer them live. If you'd like to join the Tom Heck team as a volunteer, to make a donation, or both, please visit electheck.com. Now, without any further ado, let's get the show rolling. Welcome to the Tom Heck for Governor Digital Town Hall.
And welcome to the Tom Heck Digital Town Hall. My name is Tim Kramer, and I will be your kind of co-host and narrator tonight as we move through things. If you haven't joined us before, it's always a fun time. Jump into the chat. There's a chat on the website, or you can go to Facebook and jump into the chat there, and we can see everything that you're saying. So if you've got a question or a comment for Tom, myself, or you just want to jump into the conversation with other people and converse with them, you can do that right now. In the chat log, that is on the website, electheck.com, or you can also go over to Facebook and you can do it there. With that being said, let's go ahead and add Tom into the stream. Tom, how are you doing tonight? Are you?
Yeah, glad to be here. It's always fun to do these live town halls.
Well, we've got a little bit different look tonight, but we wanted to talk about a number of different things. Number one, what's going on in the country, but more importantly, what's going on here in Nevada. And the things that we've seen over the last, I don't know, 6-7 months to 2 years, has a ton of us inside and outside of politics seriously looking at what happens next, not only in Nevada, but our country. So with that, Tom, let's talk about why it's so important, not just to get an establishment politician in, a hold your nose candidate. Why is it important? Why is it not just important, but it's a must that we get leaders in that really know how to do the job?
Well, for over 40 years, we have struggled with career politicians in Nevada. And, I just asked Nevadans, look at where we are. Career politicians have taken us nowhere. Schools are 50th in the nation. You go on, and Las Vegas is probably one of the scariest cities in the nation. Their crime rate is double New York City and Los Angeles. And you go on. The rurals are suffering because they're being ignored. You go to the cities. The cities have terrible homeless problems. We've got immigration that's out of control. That we've got illegals populating our cities, basically taking Nevada resources. I mean, if they're going to illegals, then the Nevadans are being deprived of them. And the list goes on and on. I mean, you all have been to the gas pumps lately. You go look at the gas pumps, and I think the last I saw it was like $5.24 or something for a gallon of gas. I mean, when President Trump was in office, I remember $2.24. I couldn't remember paying over $50 for a tank of gas. Now I'm hoping to be less than 100. I mean, and the inflation, we're projected on about an 8.3%, 8.9% inflation this year. But the question really is, when is it going to stop? I don't foresee it stopping for a long time. If you don't get somebody into the capital of Nevada to fix this mess, we're going to end up with career politicians, same old, same old.
Well, that's the issue, right? Is that we've been doing the same thing for 40 years, and Joe Biden, the Clintons, even the Bushes played a role in where we are in this country right now. And the thing that most people are concerned about is they don't care about what happens in DC. Honestly, most people don't. They go about their daily lives and they do what they're going to do. But now these idiots are so bad at doing their job that they've got baby formula shortages. We've got gas shortages. We've got a supply chain crisis. We've got a border crisis. Change doesn't go well. People do not like to change. Being a change agent, as you're wanting to be in the state of Nevada, I think that you're gonna have to step on some toes and make some people upset to get action to make.
Well, you can't worry about who's going to like you, who's not going to like you, who's going to be upset, who's not going to be upset, and what the media is saying about you. As I said in my focus on my website, there's 5 things there, but one of the big ones is always truth telling and doing the right thing. And if we don't start doing the right thing in Nevada, Nevadans are going to continue to suffer. I mean, the answer for legislature is, well, just tax more and spend more. Well, we aren't solving these problems. You know, I talked to someone the other day about the homeless problem. And the question isn't really how much more money do we give them? The question really is, why are we not worried about the silent majority, the people with families trying to make a living and get by? And you're right. They're focused on getting by, trying to raise a family, trying to make a buck for the family. And who's looking out for them? But we're focused on spending money on the homeless, spending money on the illegals, and we need to look a step back and look at why we got what we are, and what are we rewarding in the homeless problem? What are we rewarding in the illegal problem? And when you understand the reward for things, that human behavior is very simple. What gets rewarded gets done. We're rewarding the wrong things, and that's where we need to stop rewarding those things.
Well, let's take, for example, and that you got us to a really good point. Ask a politician in Nevada at the state level, not the local level. Well, I guess to the local level in Las Vegas, but look at the state level. And you ask a politician in the state, what's your greatest accomplishment? And do you know what they answer? The stadium, getting the Raiders here, the hockey team. They think
I thought it was getting reelected.
Well, getting reelected is one of their greatest accomplishments, but these things that they think of these things as their greatest accomplishments. And I go, well, how does that pair in comparison to Nevada being in 50th place? In 2 years, they were able to get a $2 billion facility built up. But they've been last in education for 40 years. It tells me career politicians in the state of Nevada do not care about children. Tom,
well, you're absolutely right. I mean, you look at the numbers. In Nevada has spent 40% more dollars on education in the last 8 years. We spend the same amount per capita as DeSantis in Florida, but they're number 3. So what that means is it's not a money problem in Nevada. It's an accountability problem, complicated by not willing to take people on, especially the teachers union, and basically start focusing on children's learning. I filled out a survey for the NSEA, which is the union in Nevada for teachers. There was not one single question about improving children's learning and doing things that affect and make their learning easier and better and preparing them for college. You know, in Nevada, we all know, or we should know, only 19% of our K through 12 students are proficient in science. Only 28% are proficient in math. And only 13% are college prep or college ready. I mean, this in my mind is criminal. We are mortgaging our children's future. We are mortgaging our future, and we're mortgaging Nevada's future. We must do better.
Well, that's the whole thing. And by doing better, it's holding people accountable. This is the #1 comment, Tom, that we've received on Facebook and other social media platforms, is that, well, you guys always promise this and you don't do it. Let me give you guys an example. Anybody that's watching this right now, everyone complains all the time about term limits. We need term limits, term limits, term limits. Do you know what elections are? Elections are term limits. They're term limits that make you have to do some work. You have to physically go out and find out who these new candidates are. You have to find out if they're worthy. Or do you vote in the old guy? Now, the old guy tells you every time, well, you better vote for the devil you know instead of the devil you don't know. That's exactly what the devil would tell you. When the devil says that to you, the career politician, you know that he's doing it for his own best interest. Tom, let's talk about these career politicians and where they've gotten us. In the US right now, and I don't like to go off into weird areas generally. I save that for social media. But this is a conversation that we need to be having in this country right now. There is a piece of paper in front of our president, Joe Biden, that would allow him to sign away our sovereignty, the sovereignty of the U.S., to another entity that stands over the Constitution on a worldwide basis. And they would determine what we would or we wouldn't do during a pandemic or an outbreak of some sort. Now, they didn't sign it. They were going to be signing it at the World Economic Forum this last week. They did not sign it. They've held it off, and we're this thing right here, internet here. Career politicians are the ones responsible for doing this. you, the people that are watching this and the people going to be voting for you, they have to know that you have the backbone to do what needs to be done and stand up not only to Joe Biden as governor of the state of Nevada, but stand up for the people of Nevada with a spine of steel, unlike these other career politicians have done. And if these groups come in and they say, hey, listen, we're going to take over your sovereignty, what would you as governor in the state of
Well, it's unacceptable. I mean, we're a sovereign nation, and we are not going to give up any of our constitutional rights to anyone else. And I think those are fighting words, and we're just not going to tolerate it. I hear all this stuff that they're trying to do in Washington, D.C. I mean, Biden has done nothing but destroy this country. I mean, you can't pay it in any other way. He is destroying this country. He admitted the other day that he's raising the gas prices. So that we'll be forced out of fossil fuels. But the piece that sometimes people don't get, basically it's on your backs. It's on the poor's backs, of those people that are on fixed income, it's on their backs, and it's on everyone else's back. And in the past, Democrats were concerned about taxes being regressive. Well, this is terribly regressive for everyone. But every nickel that we increase the fuel price by, it goes into your cost onto your groceries, onto your purchase of goods in your home, onto your car purchases, and everything that we buy that has a transportation cost, it's increasing those costs. I mean, what we're doing is criminal in the United States, and somebody ought to be taken accountable for that. And I'm planning, and then this election, that we're going to get rid of Biden so we can go back to the normal of having $2 a gallon gas. What we're doing is unacceptable to the nation. It's criminal.
Well, and that's what I think people are looking forward to, is they're looking forward to this fall election. The problem is what we see. I mean, Biden the other day said, made a comment that really scared the crap out of me. And what he said was, the Constitution is not always solid. I got to let me see exactly what he said. What he said is that it's not consistent. I think that's what he said. And the problem that I have with that is that goes to, well, it's malleable. We can change it. Those old men, they didn't know what they were talking about. Those old white men that formed our country, they didn't know what they were talking about. By the way, the average age of the men who formed our country, 44 years old, not old, especially if you're 56. Well, 68. Wouldn't you love to be 44 years?
I tell everybody I'm 39 and a half and holding.
I'm looking for it right now. Yeah, I mean, look at what we've got going on. This is the news in our nation. The speaker of the House, her husband, involved in a DUI last night. Not only that, but he also wrecked his car. He caused an accident. Biden goes down to Texas. The families of Texas boo him, and he's forced to leave.
And that was a good day.
We're not done yet, Tom. World Health Organization says it's important that pride celebrations do not change over monkeypox concerns. Isn't this exactly how they started the last pandemic? Isn't this exactly what they told us to do? Oh, just go about your lives. Oh, no, you're fine. No, go ahead, go about your lives. 7,000 flights were canceled over the weekend because of weather and so on. Tom, we are looking at a future where, as we call it, real men, alpha males, with toxic masculinity are going to be required to come in and make change. It's the people that can stand up to other people. What did you learn in the military? What was your role in the military as a lieutenant colonel when your leadership came in and said, Tom, we need this done and we need it done now? What was your role and how did you do that? Did you get things done by being a mealy mouth and a spineless person?
Well, it's clear, that's not what leader is. General George S. Patton, if it wasn't for him, probably we would not be able to have won World War II. But you need guys that are tough. You need the guys that are out there in the front leading, not leading from behind like Biden. What I learned of course, the Air Force Academy was a leadership lab. And after my first year, every year after that, I had people that reported to me and that worked for me, doing the various pieces of what we had to do as cadets. And then I got into the military and I ran organizations up to 450 people. And what I learned is typical culture at my time in the military was military people were not conflict avoidant. The problem in this world that we live in Nevada with the career politician is they're conflict avoidant. Their answer to every issue is to talk most of the time out of both sides of their mouth, but never take on an issue front and center. And back when I was in Myrtle Beach as a lieutenant, I was known as the man with a plan. I develop a plan, I execute a plan, and I get her done. And that's what I bring to Nevada. I have the lucky 13 of my promises to the Nevadans of things I will do. And you can check it out on my website, electheck.com. But I'm known as the guy who gets results. And I would tell you, oftentimes in the military, when someone else couldn't get it done, they called on me because I was the guy that could get her done. And that's what I bring to the table for Nevadans, is someone that will actually solve the problems instead of spending 4 years talking about the problems and at the end of the 4 years have the same problem. I want to remind everybody in Nevada, for 40 years, Nevada's been 50th in the nation in education. Do you think someone ought to have waken up and figured out how to get us out of the bottom? Yeah, I think that's criminal.
Well, let's talk about that. So you want to take action and you want to do it on day one. Your education system, Tom, what does it look like and how does it differ from what's currently happening in it?
Well, my education system is about accountability. It's the bottom line. Right now, the Department of Education abdicates its responsibility. They basically take the money every year, send it out to the school districts and wash their hands of it. I mean, I ask all you, do you send your kid to the store to buy stuff for you and you give him money and a list? And when he comes back, you don't check what he bought and if he got the right things and if he brought you change. Well, that's what's going to happen under a Heck administration. When I'm running this government for Nevadans, we're going to partner with each of the school districts and determine what their needs are. But their needs are going to have to be based on goals and objectives. We're not passing out money for frivolous spending. I mean, if you look at it right now, there's places in these school districts where they've lost millions of dollars. And then once we I digressed a little bit, but once we get the goals and objectives with these school districts, they're going to also have to come up with outcomes to get us out of 50th in the nation. Some of that's going to take remedial training for the kids, summer school. Some of it's going to take remedial training for the teachers so they can understand how to catch up students so they'll be proficient. And then at the end of the year, we're going to go back and review where they spent their money. Did they meet their goals and objectives? And then we're going to look at the outcomes for getting us out of the bottom in the country. And then once we do that, where they didn't, we're going to pull the money. We're not going to give them the same amount of money the following year if they're not going to do what they say they're going to do. It's about producing results, common sense solutions that produce successful outcomes. That's what I'm all about.
Well, one of the biggest complaints for teachers is that they feel that, and schools, they say, is that they feel that they're teaching to the test, meaning that they're not able to have let's say a classical liberal arts type of education because, well, the test is in 6 weeks and they've got to get these kids to learn this information. And that is the information that's most important. So she said today, this teacher told me today that she's from here in Nevada, in Henderson actually, and she said that, one of the things that they have to look at is when they teach to the test, what are they not able to teach? What are the things that they're not talking about? And that was that was where she felt it was most important. Do you think that we should reevaluate the standardized testing and look at other ways to be able to test kids and see if they know what they're doing?
Well, I have an EDS, an educational specialist degree in human resource development, which is basically all about learning. The biggest piece that we should be teaching children is how to learn. And it's not always an easy thing to be able to pick up a book, read it, and take some action based on what you read. So the problem is that you have to choose some overarching vision, and then you have to come up with goals and objectives, and that's what this whole thing is about. We've chosen core curriculum, we've chosen standardized tests. If you don't measure, then you have no clue as to what your success is. And I believe standardized tests give you some baseline to understand where you are. And we know in Nevada that we're very poor in our ability to teach our students, and students for some reason just aren't learning. So we have to evaluate why they're not learning. A standardized test You can pick a half a dozen things. I learned long ago, sometimes you just need to pick one and stick with it so you have a historical record. If we have historical records with standardized tests for the last 20 years, then we have an understanding of where we were and where we're going. Oftentimes what people want to do, I call it the flavor of the month. And I've been in it for quality. I've also seen it for education. What's the flavor of the month? It was, one was andragogical teaching, one was pedagogical teaching. The flavor was process improvement by focusing on every day and making yourself a learning organization. But you got to pick one, you got to stick with it, and then you basically use the history to improve where you are. And ultimately, someone has to decide what's success. I think we need to look at a successful track for VOTEC, vocational technology, and we need to look at a path for going to college. What does it take for someone to go to college and be successful? That's what we ought to be getting to, and we ought to develop goals and objectives based on that. And VOTEC, we ought to look at what the trades are and how those people that are focused on trades successfully learn. I mean, we've got people trying to do the trades, but they can't even read it and do basic math.
Right. Well, that's what we keep looking at, Tom. The numbers are what the numbers are, right? But this way that we've been doing it, the standardized testing, the way that it's working currently, doesn't work. Because kids are losing out on other things. Now, I understand that there's a standardized test, but that we have to know where the kids stand. But isn't it time, after almost 30 years of this, to look at a different alternative and say, listen, this isn't working. We got to find something that works. But most importantly, and this I'll jump in with your educational background, how important do you think that it is that schools stick to, let's say, a 40-year plan? And I'm going to walk my way through this because there's a reason for it. The number one problem that I had with my kids when I was raising them, and now working with my granddaughter, who's 9, is, Grandpa, that's not the way you do it. Papaw, that's not the way it's done, right? 2 + 2 is 4. Doesn't matter how you get there. But these teachers today they say you have to show your work, number one. And number two, this is the way that you do it. And if you don't do it this way, then it's wrong. Is that correct? Should they be teaching that way?
Well, what I learned, I mean, just from a leadership standpoint, I can get down and tell people to do it my way, but that's not empowering of people. So I believe you need to look for the outcome. And we talk about that in my plan for Nevada. It's about common sense solutions that produce successful outcomes. It doesn't matter how you get to the outcome. What it matters is one, that you start, and two, that you make slow, steady progress to an outcome. And so,
but I guess what I'm going back to is that it's not just that. It's the parents not being able to help their children. I mean, when you as a parent can't sit down and help your child, and the only person that can help your child's education is a teacher, well, that takes up to 2 people, maybe even 4 or 5 people out of the mix in educating that child. That when they sit down, for example, this Common Core, the new box thing with adding, when you show that work, it's confusing to me, and I'm an adult who can do the math in my head. That a child is having to walk through this process and show this. I can't help her because I don't understand it. Should we stop teaching this way? Shouldn't we go back to the common ways that we did things, that the way that, well, the math and the reading, writing, and arithmetic of the men who were majority came from small one school rooms across the country that put us on the moon in the first place. Should we go back to that education? Because that seemed like it was a lot more viable than what we got currently.
Well, I believe in the KISS method. It's always about keep it simple, stupid. And so, yeah, back then, we've complicated it by fancy facilities and fancy learning and fancy computers. But back then, they basically had a little building. Everybody gathered there. They had pencils, a little bit, and chalkboards, and that was about it. So we're making it more complex than it is. But the question is why are we doing it? The answer is educators think they have to do something different all the time to justify their existing. And right now in Nevada, we've got way too many administrators in the education system. And some of those administrators are because we got a Department of Education in the federal government that was never in the Constitution, that's sucking up a lot of money and dictating what we do, and we're having to do a whole bunch of reports to go to Washington and sit on a desk. And so we got all this data, and people are focusing on all this data, but where is the focus on children learning? Someone needs to focus on children's learning. And I learned from my experience and from my education that every child learns a little bit differently. And so teachers need to be taught how children learn, and how do you identify those that are dyslexic, and how do you help them and develop them compensating behavior so that they can be successful. So it's not a lot about the sameness. It's about doing something that's consistent and helping children learn. And we keep losing sight of children's learning and want to develop new and better ways and different methods and things to justify administrators' methodologies. And the same thing with curriculum. They wanted to justify curriculum. We've done away with woodshop. We've done away with home ec. We've done away with all kinds of different specialty and phys ed. Phys ed, and our country is basically about 50% obese. And that's because we're taking away the focus on children and the importance of exercising to their long-term livelihood and to their long-term health. I mean, the quality of life increased significantly when you exercise regularly.
Well, here's what's funny. We've probably had 100 people roll through as we've been talking. And they come in, they take a listen, and they go, do you know why? Because what we're talking about right now is boring. There's nothing exciting in what we're talking about right now. But these are issues that have to be addressed, because what's happened is you've entrusted these issues to other people, and they don't care about your kids. They don't.
Career politicians.
They're career politicians. They don't care about your kids. And do you know how I know? I'll ask you this simple question. Do you care about theirs? You do not. You're focused on you and your family. They say they're going to do one thing, and then they get there and they get dissuaded by the powers that be, the political elite. Tom, let's talk about the political elite. How have they been treating you in the state of Nevada?
Well, I guess I was open for a rude awakening. I know that the Republican Party says they don't help candidates in the primary. I guess recently they decided to endorse some candidates. And I guess that President Trump endorsed one of the candidates, but then they came around to the Republican Party Committee of Nevada refused to support that. So the other piece of it is behind the party is the politically elite that actually decide what's going on. They're the ones that give money in the primary. Most everyone else doesn't give money, but the politically elite do. And so basically the 4 or 5 people they give money to, those are the ones that are allowed to debate and actually get their message out via standard media methodology. That's why we're doing this town hall, is we're bypassing the media. We want to go direct to the people. We want you to hear my story, and we want you to understand that I will revolutionize government and politics in Nevada for your children, for your lives, so that you can live, play, and work and enjoy your life.
Well, a great example is these politicians in the state of Nevada, and I shouldn't say just in Nevada, everywhere, are still stuck in 1998, in 1964, in 1942. They're still doing the same exact thing in the digital age. Their only solutions are the old things. So you see banners up everywhere. You see flags up everywhere. You see all the trash along the side of the road. Vote for me, vote for me, vote for me. And they haven't taken the next step to do this digital communication. If they don't do that now, if they can't do that for the campaign, they definitely won't think about it when it comes time to help the people of Nevada. For example, the rurals. What is your solution, Tom, for getting doctors into the rurals for those people who don't have immediate access to a physician, or a physician is 200, 300 miles away? How do you get what's your solution for getting doctors into the rural?
Well, I wrote an op-ed on the forgotten rural regions, and it's on my website under news. That explains it in detail. I'll hit the high points. But first off, I'm going to visit the rurals once a year after I'm elected. Second off, I'm going to have each rural is going to have a guy that's responsible for them, that's going to visit them quarterly to understand their issues. But the first time we go out, probably in January or February of next year, we're going to go out and we're going to collect their interests, their needs, and their shortcomings. And then in my op-ed, I talked about, well, how do you get them the resources? Well, the problem right now, again, we talked about accountability and being conflict avoidant is what our politicians and government employees are. And so what we're going to do, what the government does right now, Nevada government, is they pay for different skill sets to go to college in Nevada. But part of that agreement is they're supposed to do some service in the rurals. Well, the Nevada government is not holding them accountable. We're going to do that. I know in the military, there are some assignments that were not choice assignments, and oftentimes they were short, 1 year, 18 months. And I know that what they did, for instance, I had an assignment to Korea for a year, and I had to follow on to Hawaii. So what we do is we give them choice assignments after they spend their 2 years in the rurals. And basically we hold them accountable. We're going to pay for their education, but that's going to be true for doctors, for dentists, for nurses, for social workers, and every other service Nevada provides. We got to provide a motivation for people to be out there. And especially if we're paying for their education, they need to live up to their part of the agreement. And again, another accountability problem where Nevada fails with an F.
Yep. Well, and that's, again, we go back to what we're talking about right now is the boring stuff of government. No, everybody likes the election. Everybody likes campaigning. Everybody likes the parties, but sitting down and actually doing the work no one wants to do. What's your commitment, Tom, to doing that?
Well, yeah, I go back to in the military.
I'm sorry. I'm going to rephrase that. Will you be holding government in Carson City or in Las Vegas? Then continue.
No, I'll stay in the governor's mansion because that's where all the people are. You need to be close to your staff to basically provide direction to the staff. And the rest of your question, in the military, you didn't get credit for trying and fighting, as many of our candidates talk about. It was about producing results. I got promoted because I produced results. And that's what my commitment is to Nevada. We're going to find the problem. I'm an engineer. We have a very structured approach to solving problems. First, you identify the problem. In Nevada, the career politicians identify the symptoms and they treat the symptoms, and you never solve the problem. I'm going to solve the problem, and we're not going to have symptoms because I solved the problem. But my commitment is we're going to get her done. We're going to solve the problems and with common sense solutions and successful outcomes. My solemn commitment to the Nevadans.
Well, here's the thing, and this is why I jumped on with Tom. And to help him with his campaign, primarily because of the commitment he made to what he wanted to do. And I believe, I've been in politics for the last 15 years. America has gone in the last 2 years. In particular, the last 40 years in Nevada, where they've spent money in education, these are still suffering. Tom's commitment is beyond what I've seen. The career politicians have kicked him out of everything that's happened so far because they know he's a threat. He took on Heller in 2018 and came this close. But what happened? You people in Nevada voted for the career politician again. It cracks me up. You do the same thing. You complain about we need term limits. We need term limits. Elections are term limits, but it requires you to have to learn about the candidates. Now it's back on you. It's your fault we've got shitty candidates in office. That's where we are in this country. People are pissed off. If you're pissed off, if you're ready for something new in this country right now, today, you have to start acting. And you have to start listening to guys like Tom Heck that aren't career politicians. Live up to the oath that he swore to years ago. Tom, let's talk about that part of it. Why is it so important, do you think, that a military mind with the training you've got is exactly what Nevada needs right now?
Well, a military person, first off, as we talked about, we bring extensive leadership and understanding how we motivate people to complete a mission or get something done. With that said, and then we bring a structured environment with consistent processes. And these are boring things that people don't like to talk about, but the military had consistent processes. We had checklists. I mean, you talk about these complex military systems that the military operates. For instance, a fighter jet. Well, there's what they call a -1. The -1 is basically a checklist. In Nevada, I doubt that we use the same process twice on anything we do. That's why we can never do this. Why we can never solve problems in Nevada is because we were creating the wheel every time. When I'm your governor, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go visit with Governor Abbott, Governor DeSantis, the governor from Alabama, Governor Walker from Wisconsin, and I'm going to talk to those guys about what they found and what they made successful, and basically use some of their ideas. We don't need to reinvent the wheel here. And that's what one of the things that the military took. We learned from different bases who did different things. We learned from different commands, and it was all about basically a continuous process improvement. And what does that mean? Well, what that means, again, it's not glamorous, but the continuous process of improvement is you have a culture in an organization where every person, every time they do something, they look for a way to do it better. And if they find a way, they run it up the chain of command, and then we implement that so that we do things better every single time. And when you get to that desired point, then you're called a learning organization. You learn based on past experience and behaviors, and you learn how to make it better and get her done.
That's what we need, right? And that's what we need now more than ever, in politics across in government across the board, regardless of it being in Nevada or not. We've got an interesting question from Vincent Palmieri. It's a big question here. What does the government have over the state chair, and what power does the governor have to investigate the finances of the state chair? Basically, they're wanting to ask what power does the governor, as a Republican, have over the
Well, I think it's pretty clear. Generally when they talk about President Trump, he really was the leader of the Republican Party, and I believe he still is. I think the governor, the past governors, probably abdicated responsibilities with the party. I won't. I will work very closely with the parties to provide the direction that we need so the Republicans can be successful in elections. And I'm going to develop a PAC to support conservative candidates in the primary. We've got to support current conservative candidates in the primary so that we can get them through the general election. And that's what my commitment is. Revolutionize the party, revolutionize our efforts to get good candidates. The problem with the party right now is they focus on, and their success is based all on getting people registered. But you can register people, but if you don't give them good candidates, good conservative candidates to vote for, you don't get anything different. A rhino is no different than a liberal, except he's got a different letter behind his name. And it's not acceptable to continue down that path because they stymie conservative efforts every step of the way. It happened right with President Trump in the Congress. The rhinos, they stopped a lot of things that he wanted to do. In Nevada, the same thing. The election laws that were temporary were made permanent with 3 votes from Republican assemblymen, senators. Unacceptable to me. That won't happen. And if necessary, I will use the bully pulpit to get us where we need to go.
Vincent follows up with another question. Will you investigate the finances of the state party?
Well, I don't know that I can direct them, but I can use the bully pulpit to get an independent auditor to check all the finances for not only the party, but for the school system, where they've lost $60 million in one place, $300 million in another place, as well as the individual departments. You got to start from ground zero, and that's auditing all the departments and finding out where the problems are so you can fix them.
So as governor, you come in and take over. What is your plan on day one? Are you going to allow everyone in the state to keep their job, or do you have something special planned for?
Well, my day one starts on November 9th after you all Nevadans elect me. And that's going to begin developing and running around the country to find people to be the department heads. I'm going to hire the best of the best. And then when I get into office, we're going to do a bunch of executive orders, certainly to get rid of mandates for vaccine and CRT and shutdowns. I'm also going to get with the legislature, the governor's power should be limited to 30 days and no more. And then after that, my goal and interest is in basically working with each department to develop a method of continuous process improvement so we can get better and basically have critical success factors for each department so that we can develop action plans and then make things better for Nevadans and be responsive and effective for Nevada voters.
So what you're saying, Tom, is that you're willing to do the boring work to make people's lives better.
Well, when you're producing results, it's not always fun, but it's important that you always achieve your results. And I have a long history of producing successful outcomes, results, and I'll get her done.
One of the biggest issues that's come up in the last 2 years, well, happened in 2020, was the 2020 election. Over the last few weeks, we've learned a ton of new information. And for all of those that were called dingbats or crackpots or tinfoil hat wearers because of what we thought we saw, well, what we knew we saw on election night in 2020, um, you've got a unique approach to how you're going to look at the 2020 election in the state of Nevada when you become governor. Let's talk about that. What's your plan, Tom?
Well, again, it goes back to my military experience and leadership. It was, we had big exercises. One of the big exercises was in Korea. It was about 35,000 troops. So you had to move personnel, pieces and parts and machinery around the globe to Korea. And when we did that, after each one of those exercises, we had a lessons learned process, and that amounted to focusing on what you did well, what you didn't do well, and then those things that you didn't do well, you developed action plans so that the next exercise you can do better. I'm going to do the same thing for the 2020 audit. I mean, the 2020 election. We're going to go back with each of those county boards of supervisors for election, our election supervisors, if you will, and we're going to go back with them and review what they did and determine where they fell short, what they did well, and then we're going to develop action plans to fix it. And then we're going to do that in 2022 and 2024, as long as I'm governor, to basically develop lessons learned from each election, so we can do better and more correctly.
One of the issues that Democrats have been and Rhino Republicans have been screaming about is that there's no need to go back on the 2020 election. 60% of Republicans and a large amount of Democrats, honestly, do not believe that the 2020 election was fair. So if that many people think that there's a problem in the system, doesn't it behoove us to go back to show that it's fair? Or to your point, if you went in and found out, Tom, if you went in and found out nothing happened, it was above board, what would you do? Would you come forward and say, listen, guys, it was fair? What would the report say at that point? What would you do as governor?
Well, again, I talk about it. One of my focus items is truth telling at the expense of political correctness. We want to go in there, and I've never found an organization that did everything correctly. So we'll find things that they can improve on. We're not going to necessarily looking for fraud. We're going to be looking for what was weak in their processes and what didn't they follow in their process, so that voters can view it as fair and impartial and accurate.
From both sides.
Look at
from both sides of the aisle. Correct.
From both sides of the aisle.
Both sides of the aisle.
Right. Because in Nevada and in the country, if we lose the trust of our elections, we've lost our democracy.
Yep. I agree 100%. So those of you that have seen the commercial and have made comments on Facebook about how stupid it is and we're all dingbats for doing what we're doing, if people do not trust the vote, they cannot trust what's going on in their country. It's imperative, to Tom's point, criminal. Hopefully I'm still there. But that's what we have to look at. We have to get an answer to this, and saying no and just moving forward can't do that. That's like the bank ripping you off and saying, okay, well, I guess they just ripped me off. I hope they don't do it again. As we're getting ready to go back into another election. So with that being said,
let me say one thing, Cameron.
Okay, go ahead,
when you go back and look at each and every county in their election process, there's value in proving that it was all okay as well. And right. I'm sure there's counties that did okay.
Yep, I agree.
And that basically strengthens our election system if we prove it's right, or if we find problems, we fix them. Both ways are win-win for the voters.
Yeah, there's nothing in politics that shining a little light won't make better and more transparent, and that's what we need to do. With that being said, we ran into a situation here in the last week with a man in Las Vegas named Ed Euling. Ed Euling is 82 years old. I'll let him tell his story, but he had an encounter with Joe Lombardo's police officers, and I'll give you the background, and we're going to be putting up all the video footage of everything that happened. But basically, what Mr. Euling was doing was he was outside and he was videotaping a traffic stop that it was taking place down the street from his home. And for that, Mr. Euling was arrested for resisting arrest. Now, here's what's interesting. When you go in and you look at the actual video, what you'll see is that Mr. Euling, not one time did he ever, I'm going to say it again, not one time did he ever attack police or not listen to their commands. With that being said, here's Mr. Ed Euling's story here on tonight's Tom X Digital Town Hall. I'll get it right, Tom. Here we go. Come in. It's a big file. So
I'm 82 years old.
Well, I could talk to you here. No, you need to step from the car right now.
And I've been in Las Vegas since 1943, 79 years.
Nope, you're going to be placing cuffs.
There's a vacant parking lot, a huge vacant parking lot across the street from us. We've lived here for 14 years, and no one has ever dreamed of giving a parking ticket. All of a sudden, one night, they're giving parking tickets. And I tried to advise the people that were crossing the lot not to cross it, but to go back. And one car went and was pulled over by the policeman. So I went and filmed that. And while I was filming, I was about 25 feet away from the police officer. He came up and just grabbed me. He was a 280-pound policeman, came up and grabbed me. And I don't know for what reason. So I moved back and onto a piece of property that's behind a wall. And I continued filming, and 2 or 3 minutes later, a police car shows up with 2 policemen. They go talk to the police officer, and instead of arresting him for assaulting me, they come and say they want to put cuffs on me.
Hey, you mind stepping in front of my car?
I'm sorry?
Can you step in front of my car?
I didn't hear you.
Can you step in front of my car?
I can't hear you.
Can you step in front of my car?
No, he said to stay away from him.
Well, you need to
I could talk to you here.
No, you need to step in front of my car right now. Right now. Or I'll place you in cuffs. Do you want to be placed in cuffs?
What?
Do you want to be placed in cuffs?
Because I'm far away from him.
Let's go. All right, sir. So the reason why we're stopping you now.
Let go of me.
Nope, you're going to be placed in cuffs.
What did I do? I was filming. Why did they have to take me to jail because I was filming? The treatment of people is absolutely horrible in this county. There's no question that the sheriff is responsible for for what goes on for the overall culture. My greatest concern if Jonah Barnum wins the election for governor is that he would even amplify the culture of corruption that exists throughout all of the state of Nevada.
Now, here's an interesting situation that's come up, and I've heard this twice today, and this is the second time I've heard it. I'm going to put this up on the screen. Tawana K. Crabb writes, Joey Gilbert has claimed this video. What is your opinion about him taking this video? How do you encounter this gentleman who was violated? Now, here's the interesting thing about it. Joey Gilbert had nothing to do with that video. I shot it personally. I did that. I edited it. I put everything together. I've been to Ed's house twice. Twice I've been to his house. How many times has Joey Gilbert been there? That's what's wrong. This right here today. He's jumped onto something that he has nothing on. He's trying to make it his cause. That's corrupt. If he will lie to you in the political, in the campaign, he will lie to you as the governor. Don't you people get this anymore? We're trying to tell you, we're trying to preach to you. I work in politics. I see this happen on a regular basis. We're sick and tired of it. There are those of us who are tired of it. And that's why we need candidates like Tom Heck. That's what I'm doing here in Nevada, to help a candidate that needs help against this type of trash that's happening. Tom, what do you think about that revelation?
Well, I mean, I've watched this guy operate, and all I can say is it's pretty sleazy. I know someone that talked to him 3 times, and he lied 3 times. I mean, if that's what Nevadans want as their governor, I mean, that's not going to be transparent. And the other thing, claiming a video that we did, I mean, you put it together with Ed's home video. I mean, they had nothing to do with it. And they've been trying to push me out of the election too because they're scared that I'm going to win. I don't know what to say about that other than they have a right to be scared because we're going to win.
Joey Gilbert is at his core. He's another career politician. He's a corrupt politician. He's a lawyer. Lawyer's main job is to find out how to weasel through the rules. That's how they do it. That's the common core. Anyone who knows me from social media knows that I am a truth teller. This is what I do across the country. Look me up. Kramer Says, Kramersez. Look it up on social media. This is what's behind Tom Heck's campaign. Truth telling, doing the right thing. And Joey Gilbert can't do it. How do I know? Because he's already lied about something he had nothing to do with.
Well, he even claims to file all these lawsuits. Well, first off, $30 and a little bit of research, I can file a lawsuit. But my understanding is he didn't actually was not involved in some of these lawsuits he's claiming credit for. So I don't know.
He's a politician. He's a politician. He's a politician. He's a liar, and he's an attorney, and that's what he is. He's the old joke with attorneys is do you know what the difference is between a dead rat and a dead attorney in the middle of the road?
Success.
Well, no, there's brake marks skid marks in front of the rat, right? That's how low people think about politicians, and the majority of our politicians are lawyers. Why? Why don't they want a farmer? Why don't they want a mechanic? Because they know they talk the same language. They talk, hey, let's see how we can manipulate this little thing right here. If we get this law passed here in 2 years, we can bend it to do this. That's the type of things that these politicians do. I've been in the rooms, I've seen it. And if you don't believe that's happening, you're being childishly naive. Tom, when I first came out here, I told him, this is what's going to happen. Tom, did you believe me? Were you not?
No, I didn't believe it. It was as corrupt as it is. I tell the audience here, I am totally convinced that this is a good old boy state. It's corrupt from top to bottom. Las Vegas is especially corrupt. I mean, I've had personal conversations with people that called me to talk about the corruption in Las Vegas, to talk about the corruption in Pahrump, and it's all criminal, and nobody wants to take it on because everybody's getting a little on the side, and nobody wants to stop this graft. Nobody wants to stop the good old boy system, and they just want to keep sucking money out of taxpayers' pockets. And I find that unacceptable and criminal. And I believe every other silent majority Nevadan is of the same opinion.
Yeah, 100%. People are tired. People are tired of going to work every day and getting all of their money sucked out of their paycheck, and then that money being given to Solyndra, given to local people. I mean, for example, let's look at what other builder, what other business in the state of Nevada did the state of Nevada go and build them a facility to do their job in? What factory got built by the state of Nevada? And the taxpayers got taxed on it. What builder, what business in this state besides the NFL or a professional team gets the benefit of taxpayer dollars to build the facility they have to do their job in? It's time this crap stops. $2 billion of Americans' money? The NFL.
Nevadans.
Nevada. Well, you're right. You're right. Because if you come from Pahrump and you need to rent a car in Las Vegas, or you want to stay in a hotel in Las Vegas, you have to pay that tax. And it's gotten to the point now, this is no kidding, that you come to Vegas, 1/3 of your room cost, 1/3 is taxes and fees.
Same thing for rental cars. I saw it myself personally.
Taxes
$50
and fees.
a day and $25 for taxes.
Yep. It's ridiculous. And the only way that this stops is to get leaders in place that say, we're stopping it.
Enough
and
is
hold
enough.
people accountable. Enough is enough. Now, here's the difference. Here's the thing, and this is why I joined Tom's campaign. You can probably tell. Tom is low key. That doesn't mean he's not effective. He still gets things done. I'm the fire breather. I come in and I'm just scorched earth everywhere. That's my approach. Tom's A-type personality as well. His deal is to go in and get things done, hold people accountable. I know all too well because he's done it to me. So if you want something different in the state of Nevada, You're going to have to get away from the career politicians, people. I've been preaching this for the last 4 years. Career politicians are the problem, the reason for every problem we have. You have baby formula shortage, blame a career politician. Supply chain crisis, blame a career politician. Gas prices,
Yes.
blame a career politician. Border crisis, blame a career politician. If you've got a problem in your
Obamacare?
life right now, Obamacare, high prices of everything right now, blame a career politician. Why? Because they didn't stand up and do what we're doing right now. They didn't take the stand and say, listen, we're taking on these systems, and we're going to, in Tom's instance, he's self-funded. I mean, maybe less than $2,000 in contributions, right? The rest of it has been out of Tom's pocket. Why? Because he believes in what he's doing. Tom, with that being said, we're going to wrap up. I want you to wrap things up, and I'll come back and we'll close it out with a couple of spots of yours.
Well, I just wanted to make sure that Nevadans understand that my heart is in this. I've watched what's gone on for all these years that I've been here, over 20 years, and nothing has changed. I listen to state employees talking about the good employees being pushed to the side. I hear about the state employees that were charged with criminal fraud after it was brought up, but it took 5 years for the hierarchy to listen. And as Kramer asked me earlier about the big thing I'm going to do, on day one, I'm going to fire the top 3 leadership layers in Nevada, because that's the only way we change the culture from good old boy to hiring the best of the best. You taxpayers deserve the best of the best. And I'm damn sure going to pursue every effort to get you the best of the best. We're going to fix education. We're going to fix the responsiveness and efficiency of government. And we're going to cut the budget by 10% because we are wasting so much money in Nevada. It hurts my heart that they're taking it out of your pockets. I talked to a legislature one time, and I said, how do you determine getting rid of bad programs? He said, oh, we don't do that. We just decide how much more money we're going to take out of your pocket. It is criminal. And I'm committed. We're going to cut the budget by 10%. And if that doesn't stop fraud, waste, and abuse, we're going to do it again the following year. And we're also going to have an Office of Inspector General who follows up on fraud, waste, abuse, all comments from employees about saving money and making sure that we are judicious stewards of taxpayer dollars, and we get her done for the taxpayers of Nevada and make the place you live, work, and play better for all, and a bright future for your children. Thank you. God bless America. God bless Nevada. And God bless all of you. Have a great night. Thank you for watching.
Perfectly said, Tom. Thank you so much. Let me close out in saying this. You've seen what's happened in the last 2 years. If you're from Nevada, you know that the education system out here, you know that the state itself has been corrupt for 40, 50, 60 years. Are you tired of it? Do you want to change it? Do you think that you can do that? Do you think that you can change the system by continuing to use the people that are currently in the system? You can't. It's impossible. You cannot plant corn and expect beans. And that's what you're doing. If you're pulling from the career politicians, at this point, for me at least, it's anybody but Joe Lombardo. I've seen what he's capable of. I've seen the city. His job has been done. He was not good at his job. He failed his job. Crime has doubled in the state since he took over, doubled in Clark County since he took over. Well, I'm sure there's a bunch of reasons he can come up with for that. But are you tired of the excuses? If you're tired of the excuses, you have to change. You have to change the way you think about it, and you have to look at elections as term limits. You don't like the guy? Don't vote for him. Vote him out. Get him out of there. You don't like policies? Vote him out. That's what the elections are for. They're term limits. 2 years, 4 years, 6 years. Those are terms. They're limited. You have the ability, but the onus is on you. You have to step forward. You have to do the research on these candidates and make sure that these new candidates, like Tom, are viable. Or you can do the lazy thing. You can just vote for the career politician and then complain about him and say you want term limits. It's better to do your work. With that being said, we're going to close out. Thanks for joining us tonight. If you have any questions during the week, always drop Tom a line at talktotom@electech.com, or you can also drop a line here at Facebook or on Twitter or any of the other social media outlets that we're on, or at the website. There's a contact form there as well at electech.com. Again, thanks for joining us tonight. God bless America. God bless the state of Nevada.
Thank you for being a part of the Tom Heck Digital Town Hall, where Tom is giving the people of Nevada their voices back. Join Tom every Monday night at 7 p.m. as he discusses his plans for Nevada directly with you, the people of Nevada. Do you still have questions? Call Tom directly, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. at 775-393-0500. That's 775-393-0500. And yes, Tom actually answers his phone. If you'd like to join the Tom Heck for Governor campaign as a volunteer, to make a donation, or both, please visit electheck.com. Thank you again for being a part of Democracy in Action, and only on the Tom Heck Digital Town Hall. Mark your calendar now and plan to join Tom again next Monday night at 7 at electheck.com, as well as these video streaming platforms.